Wait, that's kind of vague. Good luck or bad luck?
I'll take it. Well, hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between. I am the Lavender Lady, Diana Clarion, and this is the Sunday stream. And I'm going to mute my laptop. Okay, that's all nicely done. And with me
Uh,
today
are you
is
sure we've started? It still says off air.
what I'm seeing on my laptop is us broadcasting.
Okay, okay.
Yay, I like that. How do you
Mhm.
guys like that out there? Um, with me today is the ever so wonderful, absolutely superwoman, Bionic Dance, also known as Kate. Why don't you say
Hello.
hi to all the nice people? Tell them who you are.
Um, well, as we say, my channel name is Bionic Dance. You can call me Kate if you like. My channel is dedicated to debunking religious videos because let's face it, they say a lot of stuff that just isn't true. So, yeah, that's what I do. Subscribe, or I will make you watch while I destroy everything you've ever cared about. Just saying.
You forgot the pillowcase full of hammers.
Oh, that was last time.
Okay, fine. Um, I want to say before we get started, this particular stream deals with some sensitive subjects, um, namely references to pedophilia. There can be knee-jerk reactions. I'm hoping that everyone who sees the stream here today and out into the future understands that we are in no way endorsing the assault of minors or anyone for that matter.
One
We're
might
not.
even say we're condemning it.
Yes, we could. And that said, I suppose we can get started. Back around June 28th, there was a tweet that appeared which read, PSA to minors, if you see this pride flag anywhere, be warned. This flag is for MAPS, which stands for Minor Attracted Persons. This is a flag for pedophiles. We'll get to the part where that was not exactly true. But as it was, first of all, the Daily Caller, that bastion of unbiased reporting founded by a certain Tucker Carlson, picked that up. And on 9th of July, 2018, put out an article. Pedophiles believe they should be part of the LGBT community. Pedophiles are rebranding themselves as MAPS, or minor attracted persons, in an effort to gain acceptance and be included into the LGBT community, according to several reports from LGBT news sites. According to Urban Dictionary, the blanket term MAP includes infantophiles, infants, pedophiles, prepubescent children, hebephiles, pubescent children, and ephebophiles, postpubescent children. Some maps also refer to themselves as no maps or non-offending minor attracted persons. These pedophiles seek to be a part of the LGBT plus community, even going so far as to make a pride flag for Gay Pride Month, and that is the flag that you see up in the corner there. And we can just drop that to the bar. That's enough. Um, After that, in the same article, they say sites such as the Prevention Project claim to be aimed at helping children, posting quotes like the one below, reminiscent of testimonials of struggling gay youth under headlines like Everyone Needs Support. John was suicidal. He had been bullied by trolls on social media for most of his life for being different. The bullies were primarily people who claimed, based on their religious beliefs, that John was going to hell and deserved to die. They described how they would kill him on his Twitter page, and people supported their hate. Desperate for help, John sought treatment for his shame, depression, and suicidality. Although he was scared to share about himself with a stranger, he felt desperate for help as he had no desire to harm anyone, ever. Once he shared about his attraction to children, his therapist told him, "I don't treat sex offenders." Okay, that was that wonderfully unbiased reporting from there. I'm going to turn some pages here about the the Prevention Project. My research has turned up that that is actually a real organization. However, they are not helping the children so much as they are attempting to help people who recognize themselves as pedophiles but have no desire at all to harm anyone, least of all a child. Right from the opening page of their website, the use of the
Sorry,
term.
I got a text message.
Okay. The use of the term MAP is considered an accurate one used in the global sex offender research and sex offender treatment community. The term minor is defined as anyone under the age of 18. Therefore, the proper term for someone attracted to a 14-year-old is actually called an epibophile, not a pedophile. Someone attracted to a 13-year-old is called a hebophile. Pedophiles are defined as individuals attracted to 6 to 12-year-old children. Hence why we accurately use the term minor attracted person when we discuss providing accurate preventative treatment, support, and interventions to men and women with attractions to various ages of minors. We are not trying to soften the term or rebrand pedophilia to fit in with certain groups. We provide preventative treatment to individuals who are attracted to various ages of minors. Thus, it is accurate to use the term minor attracted person. So, right there, we have an idea of how little Mr. Carlson's organization is representing what might be called the accurate truth. After that came something that really, really enraged me. Not this, but what came after it. It was a TEDx talk called "Pedophilia is an Unchangeable Orientation." This was given by a German medical student, Miriam Heine, where she described how the classification systems that she uses as a German medical student, these are international classification systems, describe pedophilia as an unchangeable sexual orientation. And nobody decides to be a pedophile. Nobody can cease being a pedophile. However, she draws a distinction between those who actually commit assault upon children and those who simply are having the desire to do so, yet refrain. A certain Ken Ham picked that up. And here's a clip from what he did to it. As soon as I get the
as well. Right. So the TEDx speaker says pedophilia is a natural sexual orientation. So she says we need to differentiate between child sex abuse and pedophilia, that pedophilia is a natural sexual orientation just like heterosexuality. So they're trying to, again, normalize it. So
and just so that people know, we're not just making this up. I want you to hear this for yourself. Actually, my understanding is it was a TED video, and because of the outcry, they actually took it down, but it's still on the internet nonetheless.
I want to quickly summarize where we are at the moment. According to current research, pedophilia is an unchangeable sexual orientation, just like, for example, heterosexuality. No one chooses to be a pedophile. No one can cease being one. The difference between pedophilia and other sexual orientations is that living out this sexual orientation will end in a disaster.
You mean the rest don't?
Well,
that
yeah,
are
exactly.
against God's word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't
Why
they act
not?
on their
Right.
feelings? I mean, we don't tell homosexual people in this culture today to not act on it. Why should pedophiles not act on their sexual orientation?
I mean,
if it's natural.
if there's no God,
Yeah.
if
can't
there's no
help it,
absolute authority, if the Bible's not true, anything goes. So how can they say this is wrong or that's wrong? I mean,
And there you have it. We have again a attempted forging a link between those of us who happen to have sexual orientations that are not in the majority, and what's the good word for it? A disorder, a deviance. And this is what I want to address today, and this is what I hope that Kate will help me address today, is...
To be fair, I did not hear a word of that video, so...
You did not? Did anyone
No,
else... Did anyone else out on the stream hear that?
I mean, well, I take it back. I could hear a tiny, tiny bit of it. It was really, really faint, but I couldn't make out any of the words.
Okay, I've got you. I'm going to ask you out in the audience. Were you able to hear that? Because if you were not able to hear it, I can play it again, because this is crucial right here to what's going on. The things that the far right are doing.
Okay, apparently people heard.
They did? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good thing, so I won't necessarily play it over again. Okay, that's a good thing. Now, what's interesting here is that Mr. Ham or his team at AIG or whoever did this looked through the video in question to take the clip of what they showed. At the beginning of that TED Talk was another thing that they really should have listened to and seem to have ignored.
Let me tell you about Jonas. Jonas is 19 years old. He studies law in Munich. In his spare time, he likes to play soccer. Jonas has a secret which he thinks he cannot share with anyone, not even with his best friend or with his parents. He's just too afraid of anger, rejection, and repulsion. Jonas knows that he has to suppress his sexual drive for his entire life. And he also knows that there will never be a loving and fulfilling partnership that he can enter. Because Jonas is a pedophile. He's only attracted to female children between the ages of 6 and 12 years. But since he's aware of the consequences for the children, he has never given in to his sexual drive. What is pedophilia? And what is it not? In the ICD-10, the International Classification System for illnesses, pedophilia is coded as the sexual preference for pre-adolescent children. It is listed under the sexual disorders. Whether the persistent occurrence of sexual thoughts and feelings for pre-adolescent children have been acted upon or not is not relevant to the diagnosis. Like every other...
Okay, Kate, you're saying that you're not hearing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is... now, I know that Ms. Heine was speaking at a lower volume than Ken Ham was, you folks out in live stream land, you're saying that you are hearing this well. Because yeah, these are kind of crucial here. Because basically what she was saying was what I had spoken of earlier, that she has seen in the research that she's done that pedophilia is a unchanging orientation, but the person by the name of Jonas she's described, by virtue of his understanding the dire consequences to the children of his possibly acting on those feelings, he has refrained throughout his life. He was age 19 when she was describing him. Because the thing here, this clip was right at the beginning of the talk. The one Ham picked was 6 minutes in. Unless somebody sent him a timestamp, he had to have seen this at the beginning of the talk. And one last clip, and hopefully we can hear this. I'm going to emphasize what Ham charged and Heine's reply, and hopefully we can hear this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't
Why
they act
not?
on their
Right.
feelings? I mean, we don't tell homosexual people in this culture today to not act on it. Why should pedophiles not act on their sexual orientation?
I mean,
if it's natural.
If there's no God,
Yeah.
if
can't
there's no
help it,
absolute authority, if the Bible's not true, anything goes. So how can they say this is wrong or that's wrong?
But since he's aware of the consequences for the children, he has never given in to his sexual drive.
And there it is. He knows the consequences to the children, and this is why he does not act. Ham had to have known this. His team had to have known this, because that was right at the beginning of the talk, and maybe it just disappeared into thin air. But I'm going to open this up. Kate, what are your feelings on this?
Well, I did a little bit of research, and gosh, I'm trying to remember all these acronyms and stuff. But the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, by the American Psychiatric Association, the APA, has changed. I mean, because apparently it was originally seen as an orientation, but they've changed it to a psychiatric disorder. And that honestly seems a little more accurate. But even if it wasn't, the fact is that there are a lot of problems with someone being a pedophile, namely that consent cannot be given, at least legally, by a child under at least 16. I mean, if you look it up, in the United States, 16 is the youngest age for sexual consent. And so if a pedophile does act on their orientation, their desires, they're clearly committing a crime. And well,
Yes.
they should be. I mean, they should be considered to be committing a crime, obviously, because
Absolutely.
this is one of the most horrible things you could do to a kid, I'm sure.
Now, the thing is, though, where does Ham, where does Carlson, where do the rest of these arch conservatives get the idea that what we are doing, okay, you and I, were we to engage in a relationship, we would select women of consensual age who gave us consent with whom to have the relationship. How does that equal something like an assault upon anyone, least of all a child? Do they actually believe what they are saying? Rhetorical question.
Well, okay. I mean, I'm not sure if they do. I mean, it does sound really faked. I mean, one of the things that Ken Ham was saying, and I was able to listen to a little bit of it because I pulled up the stream, but it was so delayed that But one of the things that he was saying is, well, if there is no God, it's anything goes. And bullshit, because we can make rules. We can decide that something hurts and is unacceptable. We can do that. And I mean, most people agree on a lot of those things. Goodness knows if you punch someone, there's a good chance they're going to object, and you'll object if they punch you. So it's not anything goes without a God. But that seems to be a staple of their arguments, is that, like, well, if there isn't a God to tell you that homosexuality is wrong, then you can just go ahead and boink someone of the same sex. Never mind the part where homosexuality is as much about, or even more about, building a relationship, more about finding love than it is about getting dirty in the sheets, right? But one of the
Right.
things that they don't say about pedophilia is whether or not these people want to marry a kid. They just want to fuck one, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why pedophilia is a disorder and not an orientation, because an orientation involves love.
Yeah, and this is why I personally prefer to use the term partner preference rather than sexual orientation, because to my ear, you may disagree with me, and if you do, please tell me about it. To my ear, sexual orientation sounds like simply the horizontal bop, that all it involves is the sex, when what we are really after is that loving, committed relationship. I mean, yes, there are some people who want to have sex with as many people as possible. You're looking in her younger days at what was one of them. She grew up. Trust me. Um, the the whole thing about concentrating on the sex rather than that committed relationship is really what it unnerves the hell out of me.
Well, I mean, that is one of the problems with like colloquial language, with like speech back and forth versus scientific definitions. Because, I mean, you remember when like global warming was the term, and then that guy in Congress threw the snowball, and everyone's like,
Yeah.
fine. It's like, we're going to call it climate change now because obviously you fuckers don't get it. And so if you look at something like sexual orientation, the word sex is in there, and that's all people can hear, right? So, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, scientifically speaking, yeah, we're probably in a LGBT sexual orientation. But like, that's like I said, the scientific term for it, but it doesn't fit with colloquial language.
And that is a problem, as you say, with the colloquial language, as it is with pedophilia. You have the scientific definition, you have the colloquial definition. I'm not going to belabor that, but you see a difference there, where the term pedophilia actually, in the colloquial term, refers to the assault rather than the attraction.
Well, and it probably doesn't help also that people's first thought seems to be like, if they hear about a pedophile, they assume it's a guy trying to fuck a boy, right? They always assume he's gay every time. And I mean, it's like that lumps LGBT in with pedophilia, because they're like, well, the guy's homosexual, he's gonna fuck a kid too, or something. It doesn't help with say like the cause of getting marriage equality, or like acceptance of gay, lesbian, bi, trans, whatever folk.
Well, I blame the Catholic priest for that.
Well,
Nobody
yeah.
ever, you never hear him talking about the kitty diddlers in the churches. It's always us who are trying to have a decent life.
Well, I'm trying to remember what, because I know there's like, you got the altar boys. There's something with the girls, flower girls or some shit. What are they called?
I really don't know, because I have
Okay.
been out of the Catholic Church for over 40 years now. And I have actually not been inside a Catholic church in at least 30. I was inside one to tour it because it was a historical landmark in Mexico. Other
Well,
than that, I don't know any of their rules anymore.
well, I mean, point is though that I'm sure there's a Catholic priest out there who is boinking the altar girls or whatever they're called. And so, but you don't hear about that one, do you?
Not really. I mean, there was one mention I heard of it maybe about 10 or 15 years ago. It happened to involve the pastor of the Catholic Church, of which my so-called family was a member, where he was supposedly diddling some young girls. That was really the only one I had ever heard of up until that time.
Well, I mean, maybe I'm giving the church too much credit, but it seems to me that it could be a PR move to only mention the altar boys because they're like, see, it's the gay guys. They're possessed by Satan, whatever. They're horrible, but it's all gay, which is what God's against. And then they're like, but never mind the heterosexual priest boinking kids. That's being heterosexual is okay. God's all right with that. I mean, so like I say, it sounds like a PR move, but at the same time, I might be giving them too much credit.
Yes, indeed. What am I looking for here? My train of thought just derailed.
It's probably the cat that wanted attention. I heard that meowing.
Yes, she's down over there somewhere. Next thing she's going to do is crawl the draperies, which is going to be all kinds of fun.
Right.
The thing that really gets to me, though, how can we assist in breaking that connection, letting people know that this is what the hard right would want them to know is not the case? I mean, do you have any ideas? Does anybody out in live stream land have any ideas? Because all I can do is put my face out there and say hi and talk, but so many are not listening.
And I wish I had some ideas on that score. I mean, I find changing the public's mind really difficult. And it's like they really don't want to have, at least with the church, right? I'm not going to say everybody, but at least with the church, they don't want their minds changed. They don't want it because it fucks with their narrative, right? So, so you have a lot to fight against, especially since there's way too many religious people in this country. But I don't know what you can do.
Yeah, three is three too many.
Yeah.
Because that's the first thing we need to do. I mean, I would like, and I'm going to try to start contacting pastors at the welcoming churches, as they are called, those that are friendly to the LGBT crowd, who accept them as members, full members, and treat them decently and everything, and see what they are doing, if anything, outside the walls of their own churches. I mean, within the churches is fine, but you're kind of preaching to the choir. I'd like to know what I can do. Is anybody going to listen to me on my soapbox?
There's one thing that Dudu Loves Purple, I'm not just going to call him Wolf Argent because he goes by so many names, said that LGBT is about loving consensual relationships, pedophilia is about abuse and power. But I'm not sure it necessarily has to be, because one of the things that the DSM-5 said about pedophilia is that it's sexual attraction. So it's not necessarily I want to dominate a child. It could just be that they're like, ooh, hot. But in that video that you showed that I could barely hear, but you recapped for me, the guy was like, I'm attracted to kids, but I won't act on it because I know it's terrible. So, I mean, I don't really want to defend pedophiles because ew, but at the same time, saying that it's necessarily about power seems to not meet the facts.
There is another section in that TED Talk where Ms. Heine details the differences between the attraction and the action, if you will. She actually states, I don't know how accurate her figures are, that it's only about 20% of sexual assaults committed upon children are committed by pedophiles. The others are committed by people who normally have an attraction to adults, but are after this child attacking for other purposes, say purposes of power. We'd have to review this. I'll say it again. The references to the clips I have used are in the description of the of this live stream, and I urge everyone to pay them a look. Pay a look to the articles, print articles. Pay attention to the file clips, and sort of get a feeling for what at least Ms. Heine has said about this sort of thing. And there are other ways, other places to go from here, and I can look some of them up and provide them. But and I think it's been said before that in many, many cases, the attack of a child is more about power than it is about attraction. Have you seen anything about that, Kate?
Not really. I mean, granted, I haven't really looked up those statistics. Mostly, I was looking more at the classification as a disorder part, the diagnostic part. So I don't really have statistics on how much of that is by pedophiles. I do know that there are much less horrible and invasive ways. If you really want to exert power over a child, take away their cell phone, right?
Yeah, that's a good start. That's a very good start.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, I mean, there's people who psychologically abuse kids, who make them feel worthless and that kind of thing, which is so much worse than taking away their video games consoles. But still, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't have the statistics that apparently you looked up. So.
Well, I really did not get a chance to cross-check the statistics. These are what Ms. Heine has offered, and unfortunately, even the TED Talks don't do as, I'll pat myself on the back, don't do as good a job at providing sources as I have, which is unfortunate. But I guess it's, in the talk itself, it's basically a factor of how much time do I want to take standing up there and talking and reading off these titles that are like 6 feet long. The takeaway I'd like out of this, though, is that the connection between us LGBT folk who simply want to get on with our lives and our loves and whatever else is not at all similar to what the far right wants the public to believe. As Ham said in that the couple clips that I played, what's the difference? The difference is we are not harming anyone with our attraction, with our partner preference. Maybe some other way, some other people can, but it's not about us being LGBT. Some people are assholes in other ways. We'll deal with that later.
I mean, I could totally go off on a tangent about the acronym LGBT and even LGBTQ, but like I said, it would be, well, okay. Because we're talking right now about sexual orientations and disorders and all those things. Now, I've known plenty of trans folk because, gosh, Seattle is like LGBTQ, WTF, BBQ, like central, right? It really is. But when you think about it, I mean, lesbian, gay, and bi are about attraction, are about, like, I want to fall in love with someone. And T really isn't. In fact, people who are T can be straight or LGB, right? So sometimes I wonder, like, is that really the best acronym, is LGBTQ? I mean, not to devalue trans folk, because like I say, I have plenty of friends, but I'm thinking technically here, just like purely, But I mean, I don't mind having T in there. I don't mind having Q in there. But I think it can confuse a lot of folks. And that's probably why a lot of pedophiles want to say, no, 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 it's just an orientation, right? So they can get themselves onto the LGBTQ bandwagon. And I think that we should not let this happen, obviously, especially since we've looked it up and found that, yeah, it's a disorder.
And
But
also in looking it up, that's the one thing I didn't bring up, I'm sorry, is Snopes looked into this. And it's not even real. It was a Twitter joke. It was I'm sorry, not a Twitter joke, a Tumblr joke, which made its way onto Twitter. The Snopes references in the description. I was not
you
able
mean
to.
the part where pedophiles want to be in orientation was all a
That's
Tumblr
actually,
joke?
yeah, that was a big
Okay.
freaking joke. And thank you for reminding me, because I would have gone this entire stream without mentioning it, because I'm going to be honest, folks. I'm a little nervous. I mean, the subject matter is a little sensitive. There are the knee-jerk reactions. I want to make sure that I say the right things, such that I am not misunderstood. You know, the eliminate as much equivocation as possible. So yeah, that I could go look for the Snopes, as a matter of fact, and read that up. At least I can read it off the screen, because happily, this is another reason that I put things in the description. Now I know this thing's slowing down a little bit, so my machine's just a little bit underpowered here.
You were saying before we started that you were afraid, like what happened to Skylar Fiction, where he was talking about another sensitive issue.
Yes.
And because
Yes.
apparently YouTube only looks at transcripts that have like sensitive words in them and doesn't really interpret what's said.
Right.
Like this is the kind of, I mean, you're condemning something. We're saying that pedophilia is bad, but the word is going to be in there, so they're going to be like, yeah, we got to get rid of this. And it's like, dude, we're on your side. You're on our side. Don't do this. So I understand the fear big time about whether or not this video is going to harm your channel.
Well, I mean, if it does, it does. I have to get out there and I have to say something. I'm not playing Donald Trump and saying only I can help. But if I don't try to help, I'm not going to feel good about myself. And keep in mind, there's some selfishness going on here. I'm not necessarily the straightest arrow in the quiver. So from Snopes here, a number of fear-mongering campaigns over the years have attempted to link pedophilia to the LGBTQ community, despite an utter lack of scientific proof of any such connection. In December 2017, for instance, internet trolls spread a false rumor that the letter P, representing pedosexual, was being added to the initialism LGBT for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. An eerily similar rumor was spread via social media in June 2018 in the form of an image purportedly showing a MAPS pride flag, supposedly created for Gay Pride Month. And what we have beneath that is the image that I had shown at the beginning of this stream. That flag with the blue, teal, yellow, white, yellow, pink, red. This picture does not represent a MAPS pride flag. Rather, the image was created as part of a troll experiment on Tumblr. When pictures of this MAP flag began circulating on Facebook, the posts typically included messages warning other social media users to be wary of anyone displaying this flag. For example, this is a minor attracted person, Polish term for pedophile, flag. If you happen to see this flag on any social media profile or someone using the term MAP in their bio, please report the pedophile running that account. Do your bit. And remember now that MAP from the Prevention Project is an actual term. It is actually in use in an attempt to destigmatize, not normalize. Get this correct here. No normalization at all. Destigmatize these people such that they are less afraid to seek treatment, which so many of them will admit that they need and want. Because they, as Ms. Heine said, they understand what their actions would mean to a child, how dangerous, how destructive that would be. And this is why the people refrain from acting. But then you have here, back to the article, websites such as the Daily Caller and Altitude picked up on this alleged MAPS pride flag and reported that pedophiles were rebranding themselves as minor attracted persons in an attempt to be accepted by the LGBT community. And the Daily Caller reference here is the article I had read earlier. It goes on, debunking. How many people are going to look at the Snopes, however? How many people are even going to worry about whether or not what they just read on Daily Wire, that bastion of unbiased reporting, had put out there? They hear what they want to hear, and they're going to run with it. Now, what do we do?
You know, the weird thing is, like, on the thumbnail for this video, there was a flag up there that was like, no, they don't want their own flag or whatever. And I swear I've seen that flag before somewhere, that it means something other than pedophiles. I
Oh,
swear.
holy crap. Because I was looking around and I did not see any other use for it. That doesn't mean it's not out there. It just means that I didn't see it. And I might have been looking right at it, not signing it.
You know what? I'm looking at it now, and it's different from the one I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
You wouldn't.
But it's very similar. There's a queer pride flag. It's like not necessarily gay pride, it's queer pride, but it's so close.
Mm-hmm. And I have to wonder if this jackass, I'll put it that way, patterned his flag after that one in an attempt to confuse. I don't know that that's what happened, but I have to wonder. Yeah. And yes, I'm getting riled up, people. Go for it, Kate.
No, I was pretty much done, at least about the flag part anyway. I'll tell you this much, though. You were talking about people who say they need help, right? Because they and they recognize that they need help. Well, I'll tell you this. I got to stop being attracted to junkies. Okay, I need help.
Maybe you do.
Okay. I mean, I don't even necessarily know they're addicts before we start dating. I find out later. But there's I keep trying to date some chick who looks like Tank Girl, and Tank Girl comes with issues in the real world. Hell, Tank Girl comes with a whole subscription, right? So I need help in that area, I gotta tell you. But at least they're all lesbians.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I mean,
adult age lesbians. So, yeah.
I mean, I could make some suggestions of where to look for people to date, and shut up, Clarion. Anyway, but this is the whole thing. What I'm going to say it again. I cannot say it too often. What really riles me is this forged, and I mean it in many senses of the word, not only hammered into place, but forged as in not authentic link that these people are making between those with a disorder and those of us who simply want to get on with our lives. And it does incredible damage in the minds of those who have the knee-jerk reactions and who don't necessarily like us anyway. strengthens that feeling. Whereas, where we, without that, to simply talk to somebody on the street, hi, how are you? Great weather we're having. We might be able to show ourselves as just normal people, regular people with desires and dreams just like theirs. But instead, we deal with this, and they're looking at us like we have three heads even before we start talking.
Well, and I mean, there's a lot of folks out there who really don't get it. Like they look at the whole homosexuality thing, they look at the whole queer thing, and they're just like, how can that possibly be? Right? They're like, I can't even imagine that. And they also go to, ew, gross, right? And they have no empathy for it. They don't understand. Now, granted, okay, I look at guys, especially their naughty bits, and I'm like, ew, gross. But I mean, I can still look at a heterosexual relationship and go, I get it. They're nice people and they're attracted to each other and they may have even spawned some great offspring. I don't know, but they're like, I can
But do
put
they?
myself in their shoes.
But
But a lot of those folks can't do the reverse. They just can't.
yeah, but those heterosexual couples, do they have to display it all over the place to where we have to see it? I mean, come on.
They even kiss right in front of us. That's not okay. There should be a law. There should be a law.
I don't know if you've heard it or not, Kate. I have actually heard it from a couple of people with, I don't mind the gays, I don't mind the lesbians, but do we have to look at it? And the funniest thing that I did was turn around. I know how you feel every time I look at a heterosexual couple. I just want to throw up.
Well, but I mean, this is just an extension of that whole NIMBY thing, the not in my backyard thing, which I haven't heard said in a really long time. I even forgot about it, but I was watching a George Carlin routine and he mentioned it.
Yes.
But it's just an extension of that. It's like the same people who go, I understand that a mother wants to breastfeed her child, but does she have to do it in public? That sort of thing. And it's like, guys, chill. It's like when they started talking about, well, why should gays get married sort of thing. And it's just that whole, they have a way that the world should look like. Everything is regular. Everything is the same. You don't have to worry. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to understand. You can just live your life. I mean, there's a reason the tagline for my videos is don't run on automatic. These people desperately want a world in which they can run on automatic. They really do.
And that's the unfortunate thing because, I mean, at least as far as this weird person goes, looking at things that are not my own, that are not the things that I do, the things that I like, is an opportunity to learn. I mean, I have looked at some of the streams that another freaking atheist, Don, has put out about some of the fetishes, that sort of thing. I look at that and I say, I don't get it, but I don't mind learning about how they get it. I mean, as long as they're not doing anything without consent, as long as you're not harming anyone, what's the problem?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that people do that will either gross me out or go, stop that, I don't like it, or whatever. But at the same time, I let them do it. I mean, if someone's listening to country music in my hearing, I will cringe. But at the same time, I mean, what you gonna do? There's only times where, like, if it actually actively affects me, like sometimes my neighbors are smoking pot, and I'm like, yeah, that's not okay. It's getting in my windows. So please don't do that. It's like if your neighbor is playing their stereo too loud, right? Where it's actually affecting your life for real. It's not just that you're seeing it, it's that it's hitting you, right? But seeing someone like kiss their boyfriend or their girlfriend out on the street, and you're like, ew, but let them have it because it's not actually hurting me, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I hate to say, but I really like bluegrass, and listening to Boxcar Willie is a guilty pleasure of mine. Should I be jailed for life?
Yes, actually. Yes, you should. I'm sorry, but if you're not listening to like rock, punk, 80s new wave movie scores that don't involve Tim Burton and other stuff like that, I'm sorry, you should be locked up. Irish drinking songs, those are awesome. That's the closest I ever get to like folk or country is Irish drinking songs. So,
Oh my, I heard so many of those. I was so lucky. I'll put a question mark after that. To have spent a St. Patrick's Day in New York City. And we were
I would have thought Boston would be the place.
That's one I want to try, but we were hopping from Irish bar to Irish bar in New York, and it was just so much fun. It really was. And maybe I want to go to Fenway Park eventually, so unfortunately St. Patrick's Day is a little earlier than baseball season. What can I tell you? Um, yeah, we're getting off track here, but that's okay.
Well, I mean, just one more thing is like back in Seattle, there was this Irish pub that me and some friends went to for years, and there was like this band that would show up from Portland, Oregon, called Grafton Street. Oh my gosh, they were amazing, and they got to know us. We got to be friends of theirs. It was great. I loved it. So, yeah, and I've forgotten a lot of them, but I learned so many Irish toasts. Anyway.
Okay, would that involve soaking rye bread in Jameson and then putting it over a fire?
No.
No.
No. Okay. You remember when you had your birthday show and I said, may you be found dead in bed at the age of 99, shot by a jealous lover?
Yes,
one
that's
of the
one of them.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my. Yeah,
Mhm.
that wouldn't be a bad idea, but no. Anyway, that's a violation of trust. What am I talking about?
Right.
But again, I cannot stress this too much. We are not condoning any form of assault upon anyone, least of all children.
Well, Shatner.
Well, okay. Well, no, wait.
Assault Shatner all you like.
Well, they killed him off for the Star Trek movies. Does that
No,
count?
no. They killed Captain Kirk. They got to get Shatner, the actual guy.
Okay. I'll go with you for that one. I understand he was a lot of fun to work with. Yeah, well, that's what I said. And we're not trying to normalize pedophilia at all.
Oh,
Sorry,
exactly
Georgia Perdome. Yeah.
Exactly the opposite. Pedophilia is something that should be stamped out or at least treated, definitely made to not be followed up on. If someone tries to follow through with their desire to fuck a kid, sorry, not gonna let that happen. Not if I can help it.
Yeah, that's out of my ballpark, definitely. I mean, were I to know of anything like that, I would have no choice but to intervene. Sorry.
Yeah.
But let's just have that down for the record again. YouTube. Just to have that out and known. And we're getting close. We're getting close to an hour here. Kate, have you said everything you think you have wanted to say about this?
I'm glad you said about this, or I would have gone off on such a tangent. Yes, I think I have. I can't think of anything else on the topic to say.
Okay, because really, come to think of it, neither can I.
It would have been nice to have had other people. We invited other people to participate. I know you did.
Oh,
would have been
yeah.
nice to have them in the stream.
Artemis Brain Sample wanted to be here. Unfortunately, he's having internet issues. I guess a motor vehicle took out a telephone pole and more was damaged than simply the line. So he's been squirrely with that stuff going on. And there were a couple of other people who were simply under the weather, legitimately, and could not make it. But I am so happy, Kate, to have had the opportunity to have you here in this stream. Because
Well, I mean, we discussed it last week about doing this topic, and I was like, "Oh, I got plenty to say about that shit." So I was glad to be here to speak my piece because obviously, like you say, we're not condoning it, we're condemning it. So, yeah.
and your opinion is definitely, I definitely value that. I cannot stress that too much. Um, do you have anything that you want to say about your future plans, Kate, before we close down?
Not really. I mean, it's going to be most of the same. I'll find people who have made religious videos who've been complete dipshits and debunk what they've had to say, just like I've been doing for gosh, how many years now. But I mean, like I've often said, you got to keep saying it because they keep saying it. I know a lot of people have said, "Come on, can't you talk about other shit?" And I'm like, "Well, why should I?" But no, my future plans are pretty much same old, same old. Uh, I'm hoping to find someone who says something exceptionally stupid to at least inject a little variety into this. But what you gonna do?
Well, keep listening to my stuff. You're certain to find something.
Hmm.
And as far as this goes, this stream, I would really like, if possible, to make it a weekly thing. If not that, at least often enough that we don't fall off the edge of the world. I am in contact with someone I'd like to bring on for an interview who is coordinator of youth activities, funny thing to be talking about in this stream, with one of the local LGBTQ plus, etc. Service organizations. Really like to bring her on, ask her what she does, what her, what's the word I'm looking for, what her place does, services they offer, that sort of thing, and maybe we can learn something from that. Um, and then, okay, it looks like both of Mickey's hands are pretty close to the 12. So I'm going to thank you again, Kate. I'm going to thank
Well,
everybody.
I enjoy doing these. If this is going to be a regular thing, weather and health permitting, I'd like to keep doing them.
I'd like to keep having you around. I mean, I really enjoy your company. I absolutely do. So if you see a dozen roses show up at your doorstep, you'll know where they came from.
Yeah, I'm not putting those on my Amazon wish list. I'm just saying.
So okay, I think that'll be it for now, and I want to thank everybody who came and watched and actually put up with all of this. And if you guys could help spread the word that we are just real people without the three heads and everything, that would be greatly appreciated. And it's great having the allies among you as allies. Very, very, very much appreciated. And okay, I will say at this point then, thanks a lot, troops. See you on the other side.